Hello everybody. We are gonna do a quick experiment on this canvas that I already painted on, and I really hope it works because it also even has a coat of varnish on it, so I'm not sure that I should do that. I'm trying to make sure that you guys can see. Here's the flash. I don't feel like we need the flash. Okay, so this is a 12 by 12 inch canvas. This was a really bad painting day for me. This was the 6th attempt at doing a primary colors Dutch pour. I like the colors. Something was wrong with my consistency in the back with my white. I'm pretty sure I swiped this, scraped it, whatever you want to say, like 4 or 5 times. Not an exaggeration. So I figured we could try to do something fun on it. I'm gonna see if, I feel like this is up too high. Hold on just a second. Maybe this is just right though. Maybe you guys don't need to be like right there. Okay, so anyway, it's 12 by 12 inch square canvas. It's a level 1. So I've even varnished it already once. It needed one more coat. I keep trying to like it and I don't like it. So I figured rather than trying to make it work, we'll do an experiment. So we're gonna do kind of a Pseudoswipe recipe using the bloom mixture. So we are going to put white house paint down. I use this Glidden, whatever that is, premium semi-gloss house white paint. I started off with the Walmart one. I don't like it as well. Could have been my skill level, but I've had far better results with this one. I also use a better deep base paint than when I started, but it's something Sherwin Williams, but I don't have it in front of me, so I'll try to put it in the comments if I remember. So we are using, this is Ginger Flower, I believe, by Colourarte. I mixed these paints day before yesterday, so they might be needing a touch-up. This is Cadmium Orange by Grumbacher. This is 24 karat gold by DecoArt. I feel like I'm forgetting one. This is Boysenberry by Colourarte. I love this color, like a lot. It's like the most beautiful blue purple, but my intent here is sort of a magenta yellow blue with gold, sort of a primary colors intent with a little bit more of an orangey yellow instead of a actual yellow, using a white cell activator, which is 3:1 Amsterdam white with Australian Floetrol. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the colors on here on our pillow paint in sort of whatever way, and then we're going to dip, instead of applying the cell activator and swiping or blowing it out, we're going to dip what we're going to swipe with into the cell activator, and we're going to kind of swipe however on purpose. So some of our colors will stay blocked together and some of them will blend. It's a lot of fun. I haven't done one this big. The biggest one I've done is a 10 by 10. And the only one I did before that was a 6-inch tile. So hopefully it'll work well. We'll give it a shot. I mean, I already don't like this painting, so what do we really have to lose? Okay, so I hope I have enough white paint in here and I feel like these colors are a little bit thick. So let me put 1 drop of water in them, just because I don't want the paint on the top to dry any faster than what's on the bottom, so I don't want it to be so thick that it just doesn't work well. But I mixed up these colors and I was like, well, they're dark enough where maybe they could cover up this thing that I don't like too much. So we'll see. My pouring medium for my colors is 3:1 ultra deep base paint, untinted, to Sonja's gloss varnish. So I have done 3:1 ratio with polyacrylic, and it works okay, but I get better response from the Sonja's, so maybe it's in my head. I don't really care, but I like it better. So I just filled up this container the other day. On the swipe I did the other day, I almost had to swipe, I had to tilt quite a bit of the paint off, so I think I stacked up my pillow like you would for a regular bloom when you're going to blow into the paint, and that may not be necessary. So for those of you who are not familiar with Shelee's bloom technique, this is not typically what you would do an acrylic pour with. You would not typically use house paint. But the idea behind it, best I can determine, is you are using the house paint as like, it's called a pillow because it's basically a pillow of paint. And you're using the house paint to create a bed for your design to flow on. So when you tilt it, you're not fully relying on the paint composition to stay intact like you would with a regular acrylic pour. You're relying heavily on having a really good base paint to help your paint travel and stretch across your canvas. So typically you want, in my experience, about 2/3 of your surface to have a pretty decent pillow base. Maybe that's my inexperience. I'm still pretty green when it comes to her technique. I have taken the course, and I was really trying to get American Floetrol to work for me, and a lot of people do really well with that. I know Tammy Anderson does, Canela Sirocco does. I just felt like I was having more fails than I was successes, and I bit the bullet and bought an Australian Floetrol on eBay. It's crazy expensive, but in my mind I was wasting a lot of time and materials trying to make something work that wasn't really working. So, and when I did that, I switched to this pillow paint. I still have a whole bunch of the other one. Thankfully it's white house paint, so you know, you can repaint your baseboards, you can do all kinds of things with it. And when I was feeling kind of guilty about replacing it before I used it all, which was going to take a long time, it was a gallon, my husband was like, we can use it for other things, it's not a big deal, just buy the one that you want. He's always the voice of reason when I'm being kind of cheap. So I may have overdone the house paint here, but I want to make sure we have a generous amount to glide this over the surface, because this has already been painted on, so we're not just dealing with white negative space here. We're dealing with the potential for that color to peek through. So I'm trying to be mindful of that. So I'm not really going to be too fixated on how this goes on here. There's some bubbles, because some of this is going to be swiped. The only thing I will be mindful of is putting paints next to each other that if they were to mix would probably be okay. And in this instance, most of these, there's some dog hair, most of these would be fine because these are primary colors and they typically do okay. This is more orange than it is yellow. So with that in mind, I don't want huge blocks of orange. I just thought that orange would be like a cool alternative to like a really warm yellow. So we'll see. I was going to sleep the other night and I saw this magenta color, because that's what this color is. It's sort of like a color shifting magenta. I saw it mixed with a really beautiful royal blue, so I thought, well, why not Boysenberry, you know? And I was like, and some gold could look cool. And it was like one of those things where it's one of the ideas that comes to you when you're not really looking for it, and so then you're like, well, I obviously have to look into that now. Now, how I put this on here is not going to be as important as how I swipe it, how I tilt it, but I do want, because I am going to tilt it, I do want color in more than like 1, 2, 3 perfect lines, because when I tilt it, some of those colors are going to stay. So I don't want to completely just have, you know, 3 perfect lines. That's me anyway. I mean, some people might want that. There are so many bubbles in here. I'm going to kind of deliberately put some gold right here. I hope everybody is having a good day. It is late at night here. My husband is doing homework, and so I thought, well, if I'm going to tinker with some paint, I might as well include you all and do a video. Because I'm really bad about that. I'll have like the greatest painting success when I don't do anything on the camera, and then I'm like, why didn't I video that? That would have been so cool. And so since I was going to play around with this, and it's somewhat of an experiment to see if I can do anything with this painting that I really don't like that much, why not do it together, right? I even thought about going live on our Facebook page, but I'm like, it's, you know, 10:30 at night. I'm not really sure how many people would be up and trying to watch a live video right about now. So I love this blue color. My goal is really that the blue and the ginger flower would be the prominent colors in this piece, but I do want enough contrast with the gold and the orange so that's not all that you see. And I kind of put the color down with the intent of where might we swipe from. If we swipe from the outside in, then we would typically be swiping that blue color, right? If we swipe from the inside out, we might swipe the orange. And I'm by no means a swiping expert, so I don't know which one of those is the best solution. I will say this 24 karat gold color on camera, because I've seen so many people use it in videos and stuff, on camera it does not look half as beautiful as it does in an actual piece. So if you're looking at it and thinking, why is she using that? Just know that like it adds quite a bit to a piece, and I think in some places where it kind of crosses with that orange will be really cool. You might be hearing my dog scratching. Sorry about that. They're in here, so you might hear bone chewing or yawning or growling or random things. This kind of looks like a really weird colored apple. It's cut inside. I don't want to go too crazy with this orange, and like I'm tempted to stop adding color, but then I also realize that we have a lot of space to cover, and we can't really afford to have a ton of white negative space on these corners because it would probably show through. So I'm just going to keep doing my thing here. And day before yesterday, I started tinkering with one of these on an actual canvas, and I was like, this is gonna look pretty ugly because of the composition of the paint that was on here. And it was beautiful. There was one part that I wasn't crazy about, and just because the paint didn't separate very well. But it honestly turned out really pretty. So I have good expectations. I'm just gonna pop some of these bubbles. The one thing about this paint is it dries really quick, so it really shouldn't take forever. You know, typically the bloom technique is quick. You get your paint on your canvas, you usually blow it out. With the swipes, you know, it can be a little bit longer, but you probably don't want to take forever, because then those bubbles and stuff become harder to deal with. Okay, so these colors that are all blocked up together and they look kind of strange, once you stretch a little bit, they hold the color pretty well, but the composition flows a little bit with moving your paint around. So if you're getting nervous about the composition, you may have every reason to be nervous, but don't get too nervous yet. We'll see what happens. So I hope that everybody is doing well and staying healthy. Like, I know no one wants to deal with Corona. I mean, who wants to deal with Corona, right? But I am thankful that it has kind of forced people to spend more time together and find more creative ways to spend time together. So I think that a lot of good has come from a difficult situation. If that's fair to say. I feel like I probably have too much paint on here. So now what we have to decide is, which direction do we want to try to swipe? Do we want to try to just swipe from the outside in? We want to do some inside out swipies. My cell activator is a little thick. I think it's going to be okay. So I like to use these cards. These are paint swatches, and I like to, I don't remember who I got the tip from, but somebody said, pick the ugly colors and take take some of those, because they usually have a lot of that color. I was like, that makes sense. So you can either dip your card into that, or you can get just a really small, thin layer. And then I usually try to make sure that it's not just a ton of it. So it's kind of thin. And you're just going to take this part of your card and you're going to swipe. Trying to decide which way to go. Just don't be too heavy-handed. That's where I tend to struggle a little bit. So most of the cells you're going to see are going to be right at the initial part of the swipe. And some of that is because of being a little heavy-handed, and some of it is just the natural way the colors blend together. So then just wipe your paint off. But look at the cells, look how beautiful they are. And a lot of what I do is, if I don't like the way these colors blended together, I sort of deliberately tilt some of that off. Because some of it's gonna get tilted off. There's no way around that. So now we're gonna put some more on. And again, I'm gonna tip off some of the excess. Now, I don't like it all necessarily to go one direction with this particular thing because that's not really what I'm going for. So I'm kind of thinking that we will come from here maybe. I didn't get a very good grip on it. We're still getting great cells from that though, so while I still have some cell activator, we might see if we can't pull some of that over here. Make it maybe good, might overstretch that, but again, some of that's going to tilt off, so I'm not losing a lot of sleep over that, right? There's some cells down through here. I don't know how well you can see that. We're going to swipe at least one more time. But I like that because the first cells we got were mostly blue. And since we went kind of over the pink and the blue, we have a little bit of everything. We have the gold, we have the blue. Now I kind of feel like it would be cool to come from here. Well, I kind of want to swipe the gold, but I don't know, I'm kind of torn. That was not as awesome as I had hoped. It did give us some really cool gold cells, so I don't know about that, but let's see if we can't come at this angle a little bit. I have mixed feelings about that. I feel like we kind of went too close to the bottom of the canvas, but again, we're going to tilt it, so I think what we might do at this point is do some center out, but I don't want the entire thing to be swiped, so because I want some of those colors to stay the same. So let's see what happens if we just do here. Some of this that I know is going to come off, I'm just playing around with it because it's gonna, some of that's going to tilt off. So here we have some really cool gold cells. Kind of tempted to see if I can't pull on this a little bit, but I don't really want to mess up the composition of what's left there, and I think that I feel like I just did. Okay, let's see what happens if we just tilt a little from here. Like I want to mess with that and see if I can't fix that a little bit, but I don't want to sacrifice the whole thing just to fix this one part, which is what I feel like I'm doing. So let me see if I can't grab this section of paint with this toothpick and some of that will blend okay when we stretch it anyway, but I really like some of the lacing we got right there, and I don't want to mess it up by continuing to tug on it. Well, that didn't work. I'm taking too much time to do this, so. All right, we might do one more thing from the center and then see what happens. I think we're going to use the other side of our card at this point. And maybe even a smaller section of card, because I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to overlap. All right. Okay, so know that I want to swipe across something we've already swiped because I'm afraid that it's going to get really muddy. So I think we're just going to go from, dang, I don't really know what to do here. Overthinking it, maybe, a little bit. Let's go from here out. I don't know that that added a ton of value, but let's see. So my first place that I will probably tilt will be from down here. So we probably should get to tilting. I don't know that I'm gonna do much better than what we've got. And you can't really torch too long with house paint. It burns really fast, but there are some bubbles. I should be wearing gloves, but I'm not. So, for those who are not familiar with this technique, it takes a lot longer to tilt because of the consistencies of your paint. And I am totally ruining this corner right now. So just be aware, like, it's gonna take a while to move your design around. Just be patient with that. I'm trying to rescue this corner without compromising the composition of the entire painting. That's the other thing I've struggled with a little bit, is learning when a corner doesn't need to be perfect for the sake of not overstretching your entire design. I can tell you that I feel like I overswiped this a little bit. There are some places where it is losing a lot of its composition. So before I finish stretching it, because I can see where this is going to blend in and kind of form this purple color, before I overstretch it, I'm going to add a little bit of paint just in some thin places to help us have enough paint. And that may not be a good idea, but just to make sure. There's some really beautiful lacing. My concern is that we may have way too much stretching and have no paint. So just add a little help for us here. Now we're gonna come this way a little bit. Even the parts that are kind of muddy are still really beautiful, but we kind of want to guard the cells that we really like to try to prevent overstretching. I don't know that we're going to completely be able to avoid that. So one thing that I do that kind of helps is I try to meet the paint where it starts to drip off with my finger, with some of the drip off, so that it flows down a little bit easier. Sometimes that works really well to help, and sometimes I do that too much and then I kind of mess up the design on the side. So hold on just a second. Bear with me just a second. Sorry, my husband's Alexa started talking, so I was afraid she was going to start playing music or something. I do think that I will end up liking this. Just right now there's some parts that I'm like, yo, I didn't want that to happen. So let's see. Let's see how the cells are losing some of their composition. is exactly what I don't want. So I'm trying to not overstretch all at one time, trying to let it come back to the center. But again, this was an experiment, so on a smaller canvas, this probably would have been fine. Let's come over here and help catch some of this. I'm about to lose some of the best parts, so I don't want to do that. By the same token, we got to cover our sides. We can't really afford to, oh, look what I just did, to not cover it, because again, we're painting over something else. So here, I can try to help it along a little bit. The only bad thing is I don't have only white paint on my fingers, so. Okay. Now you can't really see it, but on this side, it's almost covering it, so I'm just going to help it a little bit by gathering that drip off and helping it come down the sides. So now, I want to hit this bottom corner and the top corner. The place that we can most afford to lose paint is down here where it got muddy. That's really just where we got a little swipe happy. And the other part that, see in the middle here, some of that blue is peeking through the orange, so I don't know if that's going to work out all right or look weird, but it's where we're at in the world. So a little nervous about this. What I should do, if I'm a smart person, which I feel like I am, we should get a little house paint, help ourselves a little, huh? Just help it a little, give it a little room to grow. Again, I haven't done this beyond anything really small, so this is learning for me too. See, I'm a little worried about that right there, but that's one thing about fluid art, you cannot control it. You can influence it with your skills, and you can grow in those things, but you control it, and that is part of what makes it exciting, I think. You cannot entirely and completely control the outcome every time. I think it's like therapy for those of us with control issues, because you can't entirely control it. So as I tilt, I try to swipe the edges a little bit. I kind of want to knock off more of that on the bottom. I'm tempted to add more white paint so we don't have to keep overstretching our design. I got paint on my shirt. I can't get the lid off because I have too much paint on my fingers. What you may not be able to see in the camera is where the gold is sinking into the white. It is really creating some cool, like, interference features. Like, it looks like we put an interference gold in the white in some sections where it's kind of been swiped over, so that's kind of cool. And I don't really want to entirely lose that. That's why I kind of keep adding some white to the edges so we can keep as much of our composition as possible. What makes me a little nervous though is how much of that other canvas might show through. I guess time will tell, huh? I thought this was going to be a super fast video. It's not really turning out to be. Okay, I feel like I keep kind of cheating by adding more white, but I don't want to entirely lose our color, and I feel like if I keep stretching it, I'm going to. So I also don't want to have too much paint on the canvas because then that can make it crack. Oh, I just got a paint glob. So kind of in a difficult position, but if I get the edges covered, I feel like I can move this a little bit cleaner. My house paint also might need a little water. It's good and thick right now. All right, so this is kind of our design. I feel like I really like the top, and some sections of it turned out really nicely. And if you look up close at this corner down here, it's pretty. It's like a purple gold color, but it is also a little bit muddy. So I'm kind of tempted to try to tilt some of it off. My fear is that if we overstretch our canvas, we're going to lose a lot of the stuff that we really like, and we're going to lose a lot of the composition of it. So I'm just kind of trying to gauge that right now. So I'm trying to tilt a little bit of it off without tilting it too much, because I really wanted more of the primary colors. But if I tilt too much of it, we're going to lose a lot of our lacing that we like a lot. And my paint is starting to set too, so I'm losing my ability to do that well. So I think we tilted a good chunk of it off, and I think now we probably need to stop. There are some air bubbles. Due to the fact that the paint is sort of drying, we don't really want to torch it. So what I typically do is I will grab a toothpick and I will grab the bubbles that way. So if I were to hang this, I would think that I would want most of the focal point to be on the top. So I would probably hang it with the, I don't want to show you because I have so much paint on my fingers, with this side up at the top. The only thing is, if you were to hang it like sideways, I think the muddiness, the parts where the colors really blended a lot more than intended, would look intentional, and it would help it come together. So like if you did it like that, so I don't know, like if you get up close to it, the part that probably looks muddier on camera is actually really pretty. It's just, it's very blendy. I would have liked to have seen this orange part in the middle blend a little bit more than it did, but ultimately it has some really cool gold next to it and some really cool lacing. So I think in the grand scheme of things, I hated this painting. Well, I didn't hate it, I just didn't see a lot of value in the way it was before because I didn't like the way it turned out. So if I had to say, do I like it compared to what it was before? Sure I do. So let me get a paper towel and I'll bring you guys in for a close-up. All right, so here is the top left-hand corner. This part right here is probably my favorite. That and this right here. I'm a little concerned with how that blue is going to dry right there. And I wish this orange had maybe spread out a little bit more than it did. But again, beautiful lacing. I love the way the gold goes over right there into the white. Looks really beautiful. I also really love this section. This is the bottom left. Little orange dots there. This is where some of our swipes got a little muddy. I think if I were to have redone this one, I would have done a lot more center out so that there was less swipe across the whole piece with color. But again, this was an experiment. But you can see the gold shimmer through here, really, really pretty. Down here on the corner where we tipped a bunch of it off, we have a little purple gold blue look. Really still very beautiful. And then the top right hand corner. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Please leave a comment below and let us know what you think. And if you have any color suggestions in the future, please let us know. Please follow us on social media. The links will be provided below. Hope you really enjoyed it. Have a wonderful evening.